Hey all you cool savers, so we're going to do part two of 5.6 video here. And the good reason that I have for splitting up into two videos is, of course, once I stopped I realized there was a second page. Whoops! So anyway, so the first thing the first thing, we're on video 2. It's not even close to being the first thing. It's like the 9th thing, okay? What we're going to talk about right now is how we can figure out the equation of line given certain information. So one of the things we can do is we can figure it out if we're given its slope, which does not start with an m, even though that's the variable we use. We're given its slope and 1 point on the line. So if we're given, you tell us the slope, you tell us a point, we can figure out the equation of the line. So what we have to do is we just sub in that slope. We replace our m with slope, okay? And then we're going to sub in the coordinates of the point into the x and y. The coordinates given point into the equation. Where is it? Y equals mx plus b. So at that point, we've replaced the slope. Nope, that's not the slope. We've replaced the slope with a number that we were given. And then we're going to replace our x and y with the coordinates of a point we're given. And you can see that the only thing left is b. So from that, we can then use our algebra skills, solve for b, and then we can rewrite the equation by substituting values of m and b into y equals mx plus b. All right, so let's give it a whirl. Let's try it out. So given that the slope of a line is -3 and the point of the line is, or on a line is 1, 3, we're going to write the equation. So the first thing we do is we always start by writing out our equation, the equation of our line. So we have y equals mx plus b. So the information we're given is that the slope is equal to -3, and that we have the point, which I think was 1, 3, yeah, 1, 3. So there we go. Sorry, I'm going to make you motion sick by all the movement I'm doing here, but that's okay. Doesn't bother me anyway. So we're going to start by subbing in our slope, which was -3. And you can see we need that b, so we're going to replace our x and our y. Don't forget that these are in alphabetical order, so that's your x, that's your y. So we're going to replace our y with 3. Oh, hold on, I meant that to be... I try to get fancy and I just make mistakes. And then our x is, well, we leave our -3 and we replace our x with the 1. Okay, and then we still have plus b, which we do not know. So now what we're going to do is we just say, all right, so we've got 3 is equal to, and we say -3 times 1. That was an easy one. It won't always be that easy, but we get -3. And then what I like to do at this point is I like to, this is not strictly necessary, you could solve for the b on either side, but what I like to do is sort of do the old switcheroo, and I'm just going to rewrite this way. So I've just switched the sides of the equation. Switch the sides of the equation. I haven't changed anything, and that's why it's okay. Okay, just switch, so the left side becomes the right side becomes the left side, and nothing changes, and so you're allowed to do that. Okay, and it's just going to make it so you have one less step to do. It's not necessary. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it that way, but I think it's easier because then we can just move our -3 over. We get b is equal to 3, and remember when you move a -3 over, it's going to change to a +3, so we get b is equal to 6. All right, and once we have b, we're basically good to go. We just rewrite y equals, we had a slope of -3, and we replace our b with 6, and that's it. That's our final answer. All right, I've got a graph there. I was going to graph it, but this video, especially because I split it up into 2, is getting a little long, so I'm going to gloss over that. Okay, and we're going to move on to number 4, which is a little bit harder. It's not a lot harder, it is a little bit harder, and it's only that there's one other step. So instead of me giving you the slope, I'm giving you 2 points. So you're going to have to start by by figuring out your slope. So remember this from a previous video, I said the easiest thing to do here is to label your points. So we say, well, that's an X, that's a Y. That's an X, that's a Y. All right, I'm going to call this point 1, so that's X1, Y1. And this is point 2, so that's X2, and that's Y2. So from there, I can just say M is equal to, and we're going to use the formula we learned the other day. We had Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X. That's a Y. I don't know. Great at math, don't know my alphabet. That's okay. There we go. Okay, and then we can just look, because we've labeled our points, we can just look and see exactly what everything is. So I have Y2, I look and I say, oh, well, that's the -3. Okay, and then I have Y1, I look and that was the 5. Over X2 was -5, and X1 was 3. All right, so from there, again, I'm making you motion sick. -3 minus 5 is -8. Over -5 minus 3 is -8. And of course, anything divided by itself is just equal to 1. All right, make sure you get a positive 1. Remember, if you get a negative over a negative, 2 wrongs always make a right when you're in math class. All right. So now it's exactly the same as example 3. There's nothing different. The numbers are different. So I shouldn't say there's nothing different, but we follow the same process. Okay, now we're ready for our other important equation. We got y equals mx plus b. And we say, well, now I know that m is equal to 1. Okay, so I would have y equals 1x plus b. Okay. But of course, 1 times x, you don't even never need to actually write that one, because that 1's not doing anything. And I just erase my x as well. There we go. So y is equal to x plus b. So now I have to sub in one of my 2 points. So the thing is, it doesn't matter which point you use. Point A is just as good as point B. The only advice I will give you is that point A is clearly easier because it has positive numbers. If one of them is going to be easier, use that one, okay? So we're going to sub in a point. I didn't leave myself enough room to write point. All right, so we will have, instead of a y, we're now going to have a 5. 5 is equal to x, which is 3 plus b. Okay? And again, this is where I like to do the old switcheroo, but you don't have to. And then I just have to move my 3 to the other side. And because it was a positive 3, it becomes a minus. And we get 2. B is equal to 2. So from there, we can say y is equal to mx plus b. And we now know that m is equal to 1 and b is equal to 2. So we just have y equals x plus 2. And that is your final answer. Okay? So there you go. And that's honestly probably the hardest question you're going to get, the hardest type of question you're going to get in this sort of section of math, is you just find the equation of line given 2 random points. All right? And you can see, because every time you do it, it's going to follow the exact same steps. It's not that difficult once you get it once. Once you get it once, you should be able to get it over and over and over. Okay? Horizontal and vertical lines, these are ones that everybody always gets wrong because it just seems too easy, but it's actually very straightforward. A horizontal line is written in the form, so if you've got a horizontal line, remember, you have no slope. Your slope is equal to 0, okay? This is cross-country skiing. It is 0 fun. There are 0 slopes here, okay? So it's just going to be written in the form y equals b. There is no m, or m is 0, so there is no x. It doesn't matter what x equals, because 0 times x is always going to equal 0. So it's just y equals a number. If you have a horizontal number, it's y equals a number. And that number is just going to be wherever it crosses your y-intercept. So in this case, it's crossing at 7. So we're going to have y equals 7. All right. Vertical line is the one that looks different because, again, you're not really skiing in this case. You're just falling off a cliff to your inevitable doom. So the equation is going to look completely different because you're not really skiing anymore. There is no slope, but it's not there is no slope as in the slope is 0. The slope is undefined. It doesn't make sense. There is no slope at all. The whole thing is messed up. So that's why it's going to give you x equals, in this case, it's just going to be a number. So we'll call it, what did I call it over here? Where I called it a. So x is equal to a, all right? Where a is the x-intercept. So it's the same kind of thing, except we're going through the x value of 5. So this one's going to have the equation x equals 5. And that's it. All right? So that's horizontal and vertical lines. So until next time, go Sabres.